Hi, good afternoon and welcome to the Knatters Knits podcast. Today is Sunday the 23rd of July 2017 and the reason I'm so certain of this is because it's one of my daughter's 36th birthday today. So happy birthday Kirsten before we even start. And for the rest of you, if you're having a birthday, happy birthday. If you're not, welcome anyway. It's lovely to see you all and thank you for coming back if you're coming back to me. This afternoon, cup of tea in hand. Too hot to handle is not my mug, it's my son's, but never mind, we won't go there. I think today is episode number 45. I can't believe that we've got to 45 already and 50 is approaching, half a century, which for me is quite a lot of good going really. So, welcome to the podcast. This is primarily a knitting podcast, interspersed with little bits and pieces about my grandson George, and other bits and pieces as well. So, how are you all? What have you been up to over the last couple of weeks? I hope everything's been okay for you. It's been my usual really. I've been down to the south of England to look after George and back up and down and back. And today is a Sunday and it's really bizarre that I'm not actually on the motorway heading south. But it's because it's the school holidays, so I've now got 6 weeks off childminding. So hopefully you will see a little bit more knitting, and hopefully you will see from what I've got to show you a little bit more knitting content too, which is rather exciting. So let's crack on, shall we? What have you been up to in the way of knitting? Are you using the weather? Is it okay to knit where you are at the moment? How hot is it? As some of you will know, I've been trying to knit with some linen, which I'll show you a little later on. I've also got a couple of wool projects on the go. I've got a bit of spinning to show you, a few acquisitions, and we're going to talk a little bit about what I plan to do over the next few months as well, especially as Stash Dash is coming to an end in the middle of August, so I want to start thinking about what I'm going to buy to make some projects that I've got in mind. So let's crack on, shall we? First of all, let's go to my knitting projects down here. The linen I was telling you about, which is in this bag, which hasn't got a name in it, which really is a shame because I do love it. I've got a feeling it came from the States. I think it might be a Bling Your String bag, but I'm not sure. It might not be. No, it's Freckled Whimsy. I am so sorry. It's a Freckled Whimsy bag. And this was part of a deal where you got some moustache yarn as well as a Freckled Whimsy bag and a few other things inside. I haven't used the yarn yet, but the bag I'm making good use of. So, in here I have my linen project, and as you will see, it has rather grown. It's got a bit twisted as well, so my apologies about this. Let's see if I can pull that out without losing all the stitches. So, yes, no, that's an intentional hole. Just in case you're worrying, it is an intentional hole. The idea is that it'll sit like this. And it's just, oh, it is a bit big, isn't it? It's just a coverall type top, which once it's washed and ironed and sorted out, will just cover up the multitude of sins of whatever else I've got on underneath. So it's coming along. Whether you decide that's the front or this is the front, as you can see, I've done the head hole, and I'm now, apart from struggling with this, heading down the other side. Done an inch or two down this side, so it's coming along nicely, and I continue to do that one when the will takes me, really, more than anything else. Whereas before I used to be monogamous, excuse me, in that I used to knit on just one project. Because I have got so many projects on the go, what I've started doing is when I get bored, instead of sitting there and just fiddling with my iPad, is go and pick another one up and start that, and then go back to the one that I got bored with. And that happens quite a bit with the linen because it's just purely stocking stitch. So that's that one. My second project, if you watch me on Instagram or you're looking at my Ravelry pages, you will have seen that I've started a jumper for George. Just bear with me a second and I'll see if I can pull it up on Ravelry. I've got a slight problem that my phone seems to have frozen, so maybe we won't pull it up on there. It's a jumper that I think I talked about last time rather, that was in the testers pool for people who wanted to test knit, and it's this. It's a little jumper that will eventually have a hood on it as well and become a little owl. Now the pattern calls for you to do like a little flap that goes down and actually looks like a wing. I know full well that George is going to dip this in and all sorts of unmentionables, so what I've decided to do is to, instead of doing that flap, I'm just going to make an elongated ribbed cuff. I don't know how you can see this or not because of the, let's bring that down a bit. There. So this is going to be twice the length, and then if it needs be he can roll it back. And I'll do obviously the other one. The other sleeve is just sitting on some waste yarn at the moment, which is Cascade 220 if you wanted to know. And then colour work. This is only my second ever piece of colour work, so I'm really quite pleased with it, although there is a mistake on one of the sleeves. No, both of them. Oh well, at least they match. So the hood will be in this colour as well. This is a Diggle yarn by Woolly Knit. This is Blueface Leicester, and the brand escapes me for a minute. And then this brown is just an acrylic brown, but I just love the colour that went so well with all the other colours. So that's George's little jumper. I think it's going to be absolutely delightful when it's finished. The colour work went really fast because, as you can imagine, it keeps your interest. You're also paying attention to the charts to make sure what you're doing. So that's okay. And although it was only my second piece of colour work, it was okay. There's nothing wrong with the pattern. It's me. It's purely me. I'm not very good at reading patterns, and I keep forgetting that you start on the right, pretend you're Arabic really basically, and work to the left. But then you go back to being British on the even numbers and work the other way. Fortunately for me, this chart is a mirror image of itself from one side to the other, so it didn't make a difference which end I started on and finished on, but normally it would make a difference. So you go from right to left, and then on row 2, left to right, then right to left, and left to right. The symbols you follow are the symbols that are given on the pattern. The thing that confused things for me was also that on the second row you also did increases, as you can probably see here. It actually gets larger over time, and it spans out like that to make the shoulder, and that threw me a little bit, being such a novice. So that was okay. Then just around the collar area is the same colour again in the Diggle DK. It's got little flecks of tweed in, although you can't really see it in this one, except a little bit there. And what will happen is then it will go, I will pick up stitches and knit the hood, and then I haven't made up my mind yet whether I'm going to sew on and embroider on the owl's eyes, or whether I'm going to felt something on, or do a mixture of felting and sewing. Just depends on how much I think George is going to pick at it, really. So that's that. And I'm really pleased with how this is coming on. It's taken me a couple of weeks now, but that's picking it up, putting it down, and only doing it in the evening, so that's quite good. My next thing that I'm doing is actually part of my acquisition, so if we do the 2 in 1 really. My daughter, when I did the Tin Can Knits pattern for George, Flax Light, she said how much she liked the yarn. So I got the dyer, Kralaline, who's Caroline Mulligenga on Ravelry, she's Kralaline. She has the Colourful Creativity podcast. I got her to dye me up a sweater's quantity. And this is what it looks like. So what I'm doing is making a boxy pattern by Joji Locatelli, and hopefully this will do that. So that's just the start of it, and this is some more of the yarn. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love this base. Caroline, if you know, I know you don't tend to dye up Aran weight or worsted weight, but this one is, now that isn't doing its full, not paying it really any compliments because the colours aren't showing up very well, but if I bring it closer, I think you can just see on the tops there, there's bright reds, it goes to pink, to orange, to yellow, blue, green, and then there's the grey, which is not a standard just flat grey. It's got all sorts of different shades in it, and it's called No Rainbows Without Rain. A deep purple there as well, which comes out as blue on this camera, which is a shame because it's really gorgeous deep purple. Lovely, lovely, lovely yarn. So that is going to be for Rachel for Christmas. So that's my 3 works in progress at the moment, and I'm trying really hard not to pick anything else up. However, I've also got to remember that the deadline for Stash Dash is about the 20th of August, and I've still got that big blanket to finish, so I need to pick that up as well. And I've also inherited something. Recently when I was down at my dad's, and my dad lives down in Devon, he said, oh, I found this, I don't know if you want it or shall I just chuck it out. When I got there, there was this most, you can see, beautiful acrylic yarn. However, part of the yarn is knit up, and it appears that my late mum had started knitting up a jumper. Who for we do not know, but it's in pieces like this, and the colour's showing up the cables quite nicely. The camera, sorry, is showing up the cables quite nicely, I think. It looks to me like a very English cricket jumper. I don't know which size needle she's knitting on. I don't know what's going on here, but there is a back, and there's at least 2, if not 3 other pieces. I think it's 2 and a bit. Yeah, it looks like there's 2 fronts, and then she's just about started, sorry, it's all a hot mess down here, but she's just about started, just done a little bit of a sleeve there. So I want to finish it. I don't think I'm going to leave it white. I think in the end I'm going to dye it, but I'm not sure what or how, and whether I can or not with it. Probably being acrylic, it probably isn't going to take. I don't know. So this will be a bit of an experiment, but I don't want to ruin it because obviously my mum's no longer alive. She's been dead about 6 years now, so I would like to finish it because her knitting was gorgeous. It's flawless. And there was a lot of love put into it. So I don't know who it was for, because my brother's children are older, but not old enough to reproduce yet. My sister's son isn't going to have children. Long story. My kids, Rachel wasn't even married or having a boyfriend at the time, I don't think so. 6 years ago, or maybe she had a boyfriend, but anyway, there was no babies on the way or anything, so I don't know who this was intended for. I don't even know which size it is. I've got to sit with the pattern. Now the pattern is an old Sirdar one. And it is an old one. Okay. Just look at those knitted trousers though. I don't think I will be making those. I probably will do a very traditional cardigan, but I'm not sure which one she's knitted as to whether it's going to be the one at the top or the next one down, because one has got a round collar and one has got like more of an old gentleman's type collar. Oh my God, I don't know if you can see those very well. But this is a Sirdar 4-ply and it's number 3671. So it goes from 19 inches to 25 inches in. It's using UK 10s, USA 3s, 3¼ millimetres, or 2 3/4 and USA size 1s. It's into cardigan, waistcoat and pants knitting pattern. And there is, I know it's before the telephone numbers in the UK changed, because at one point we used to have all our numbers being O and then straight the number, and then they put in a number 101, whatever the number is. And this one hasn't got the number 1 in front of it, but it does name the company where you can get the buttons from, which is a company I know, and also another number. One's in Ilkley and one's in York. I know that this shop also exists in Harrogate now, so we'll see. So that's another work in progress that I would like to get finished, but as it's been waiting for 6 years, I'm not going to worry too much. Okay, what else have I got to show you? Well, there's been a bit of spinning, and this is the first bobbin. The second one is currently being spun on the other bobbin. And this is part of the skein club that I used to belong to. It's 50% merino and 50% silk, and it's called Skein Artisan Yarn and Fibre since 2010 from Australia. It's in her dandelion colourway. The fibre was 125 grams, so it'll be interesting to see. What I'm planning to do is to do a 2-ply. So I've spun one bobbin, going to spin another bobbin full, and then I'm going to ply the two together. It should come out at about a fingering weight, I think, just looking at it. But I love the pops of colour in there. Now I don't know whether dandelions are different in the UK, but this is very browns, bits of blacks and blues, so it's not like a UK dandelion, because I would expect that to be very bright yellow. And this clearly isn't, but it is very subtle and very beautiful. So that, once it's finished, will go up in the shop, which is at www.knattersknits.co.uk if anybody's interested in buying it. So that's that one. Now, what else have I been up to? Well, I've started running out of bags to put my projects in. It's alright, bits down, it's fine. And I thought, well, where can I get some more project bags from? Because I'm beginning to get, I've got quite a few yarn parcels, don't tell Filch. I've got quite a few yarn parcels coming in the next few weeks. Some from John Arbon, some from Love Knitting, I think. Or the Wool Warehouse, I can't remember which, but there's 2 or 3 different things coming. And I need bags to put my projects in. So, well, I thought there's only one thing to do, and that's to go to my go-to, and that's fondant fibre. And Debs, who's a dyer but and also a bag maker, makes these gorgeous bags. Just look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I love this with the bottom. Now this could be a sock project bag. You could actually get 2 skeins in here. But I love the fact that most of her insides are neutral, so you can do that. You can see what's in the bottom. The base is really, really good. Sorry, that's not a mess on her part. It's my use because I've used this bag already. And the zipper has something to pull it along with. This one is a Tree of Life, so you can use it as a progress keeper. And that was one of 2 bags because the second one is bigger. Same material. No colour on the base this time, just the same material all the way. And obviously a much bigger base. All these bags do stand up on their own as well, so you could turn them into a bucket type thing. And again, this one's got a Tree of Life on it, so that's that. I did have another one and I don't know where it's gone. I did buy a 3rd bag. Load if I can find it, which means I've lost a project somewhere. Oh dear. And the other project has got What was it? Ah, duh. It's here. Someone with my No Rainbows Without Rain in it. This is actually at the moment got 1, 2, 3, 4 skeins of yarn plus the pattern, and it's still not full. This is lovely. All these sheepies. And this one came with a leather tie. And the leather is in similar grey. So there it is. I knew I got it. Yeah. Beautiful bags. Thanks very much, Debs. And yes, I may have just gone. It's that Instagram again. It's that Instagram. She posted that she'd not been around for a while and that she'd been looking after a real mother, and she apologised to everybody for her bags not getting out and said, look, you know, to encourage us all to buy so that she could carry on eating, basically. She put an offer in. And so, of course, I had to go and buy more, didn't I? Now, it brings me quite nicely onto something else. I've started watching a lot of Instagram again. And knowing that I'm nearing the end, well, I'm over halfway with George's project, I wondered what else I could actually use and make for George. And then I saw this. Isn't that gorgeous? Now this is a piece of knitting by a lady called Mimi Codd, and I have got her permission to talk about it. Thanks ever so much for that, Mimi. It's gorgeous, and if you actually go and befriend Mimi, you will see on her feed other pictures that she's taken in the progress of this. But I just absolutely love it. It's called Goldfish. It's by Tin Can Knits, and it's just gorgeous. I love the choice of buttons all the way down the side here. So much so that I actually found a button company and I bought some similar colours, not the same obviously, but I just love it. Fish swimming one way and swimming the other way. So it's a Tin Cans Knits pattern on Ravelry. It's lovely, and she made it in, what did she say the yarn was? I think it's Stylecraft. Stylecraft Batik, which is why I ended up going on Love Knitting, because I wanted to have exactly the same colour, because it's stunning. So I bought some of that wool. I also bought an orange, which isn't as vibrant as the orange, so I don't know whether it's going to work as well. But that's definitely one to look at. I do love Tin Can Knits patterns. They are designed to be very simple. I think it's from the top down, yoke. I haven't read it through properly yet because obviously I haven't started knitting it. But oh, it's just lovely, it really is. And I've just realised I've also got some other yarn I could use for the goldfish that I used in a study when I was doing some designing before, that's like this. So I might use that instead, which actually is, I've written it down, Dozy Woman. No, I've not written it down. It's Jinx Yarns anyway. It's a lovely colourway, and I used this to knit a cardigan for my, I can't remember if it was my niece, I think it was my nephew in Australia, little Ryder, who's not so little anymore. And I've also in my shop got a hat made out of the same, a baby hat made out of the same, so you can go and have a look at that one. That's probably going to give you a better picture. So that's that one. Now, next thing to talk about. As you can probably gather, since I got home on Wednesday, I've done a lot of knitting, a lot of listening to podcasts, and more we'll talk about in a minute, and reading. Now, fairly recently I stopped all my subscriptions to magazines because I was finding that I've just got mountains of them. I've got something like 116 editions of The Knitter, and have I knit anything? One thing out of 116 editions. So I decided that perhaps I didn't need the subscription anymore, and if I really want something I can buy that one edition. I've done the same with other knitting magazines because I used to get another one of the very simple ones. But I've just bought this one, which is Knit Now, and that the reason I bought it was because I know the editor, who's Kate Heppel, and probably quite a few of you might recognise her. I do like the magazine because, unlike some of the other glossy knitting magazines in the UK, there are some patterns in this that are a little bit more complex. So she does try to cater for not just your beginner. And one of the reasons I bought this particular edition is because this Serdar book was a freebie. And you can see why on the back. It's all baby and toddler patterns. So yes, I'm thinking about George. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4... maybe 5 of the jumpers, or maybe 6 of the jumpers that I might make in this. That's really unusual for me. So I just love some of these pictures. I don't know how well you can see that. But lovely, really, really lovely. So I decided that that's what I was going to buy. And that's that one. Yeah, some really lovely things in there. So hopefully, keep your eyes peeled. After I finish the goldfish jumper, one of those might be the next one on the needles for George. I've been listening, as I said, to a lot of podcasts. Most of you will know that I listen to the Knit Girls because of me being part of Stash Dash, joining into Stash Dash. I also listen to the Celtic knitter. I love hers. I've really got into just recently one called Skein Knits, and the lady that does that is from Norway. From the Trondheim area of Norway, but she actually lives and works in the UK, down in London. But the last couple of episodes have been from Norway because she's on holiday there at the moment. And it's been lovely to see her relaxed in her own area, but also just explaining a little bit more about Norwegian knitting. Because you know how like we have Eccles cakes, Chorley cakes from up north, but each area of the country has its own particular food. In Norway, they may well have food that comes from a particular area, but they have knitting patterns that come from particular areas. So it's been really interesting actually learning a little bit from what she's had to say about each of those different areas, what makes up those Scandinavian knitting patterns, you know, the red and white, or the black and white, or the blue, white and red, or whatever. And as I'm just beginning to get interested in colour work, I found it absolutely fascinating. One of the ones that she's been talking about this week, or I've been listening to this week, I should say, has been about her book collection. And I wondered if you'd be interested to know what some of the knitting books that I have are, and to find out about what yours are as well. So I thought we'd do this 2 ways. One, first of all, next episode I'm going to go through some of the books that are sitting in front of me here, and I don't know if you can see them all the way up here. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Bless me. And another one is to open up a thread on the Ravelry group to do that and discuss some of your knitting books, some of the ones that you find really useful, some that you think have been an absolute waste of money, or your money anyway, and what you like and why you like them. The other thing I thought might be quite useful, I know other podcasters have done it, but what are the podcasts that you're watching at the moment? Obviously, if you're watching this, you watch me, but what other podcasts do you watch and what interests you? Just recently I've noticed there's a huge proliferation of podcasts on YouTube, and it might be that you and I have missed some, and I thought it might be quite useful if some other people sort of told us about some of the ones they like watching. Maybe we might pick up a new favourite. So that's that one really. I don't think I've got anything else much to talk about this week. Podcasts and books I wanted to talk briefly about, which I have. I've talked about my spinning, I've talked about my knitting, no work's completed, so that's it. So I know it's quite short this week, but rather than prattle on, I'm going to love you and leave you, and hopefully over the summer I might be back a little bit more frequently. So have a great week knitting, and I'm going to make every effort to try and see you again next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.